I think it's just Joanna that isn't here yet, so we'll go ahead and get started. So I don't think I see any new faces this time around, but I'm Emily, and the president of the YPG, and we're excited for those of you that are just starting to come and for all of the very familiar faces to be here. I'm Emily Moles. I'm the president of the ALS Association's Young Professionals Group. It's a group of young professionals that is really passionate about finding a cure for ALS and therefore kind of tags on to the ALS Association in terms of events and fundraising activities. We help them out with some of their bigger projects as well, such as the walk. However, we also do our own thing, all for the sake of finding a cure for ALS. We have a lot of goals, but I think our number one goal is to make we have a lot of goals. So I think that our priorities for this year especially are to continue our fundraising efforts in order to make the patients in the community have a easier life. So whether that's finding a cure through research, whether that is patient services opportunities such as mowing lawns and going shopping, or even just talking to people, or if it's something along the lines of just getting awareness out there, those are our main, goals that we're marching toward. So we do everything from happy hours and fitness events. We just did one with Barry's Boot Camp, which was really exciting, to more formal things such as our gala and also our participation in the ALS Association walks. There are 7 of them throughout the spring, summer, and fall, and we have a team that fundraises pretty well for that. In the past few years, we've been in the top 10 teams for fundraising in the New York City walk. It's normally it's between $20,000 and $30,000. This past year, we were able to fundraise 12.5% more than the year before. However, we're kind of up against the peak, which was the Ice Bucket Challenge year. That raised a ton of money. So it's been a little bit of a peaks and then valley and then slowly building back up. But by increasing the amount of events that we have and by looping in our friends and family and really working our connections, we've been able to fundraise a lot more. When you get Oprah to dump a bucket of water on her head, people take notice. So I think that for me personally, at least, my mom had been diagnosed just a few years before, and so to go from having to explain to my friends what it was to them actually knowing, and people after that knowing what it was and knowing how debilitating it can be, was a huge impact in and of itself. However, in terms of the fundraising, it was monumental. It's really been the benchmark that we've been trying to get back to ever since. Mom was diagnosed, she started displaying symptoms the spring of 2009 and then wasn't diagnosed until the summer of 2010. That's a fairly common story. It's not easy to diagnose because it could be a lot of other things, but essentially they rule out everything else before that. They found cancer. My mom had kidney cancer, and they had to actually take one of her kidneys out. And then they realized that's still not it. So it was a pretty traumatic year, but they did finally diagnose her correctly, and so she is still alive. She's absolutely, being the mother of the bride these days. She'll have my dad call me probably about once a day with some thoughts she has about the wedding. So as far as slowing down, she absolutely hasn't. However, she can't speak or verbalize, I guess, and she cannot move. And with that, the association, it opens a lot of doors for us. We have liaisons from the association that are in every single meeting, and they're very helpful in using their weight as an organization to help us get into places that we might not have been before. If anything, just because they've been in the area and people know them and can help us with, getting a happy hour location or researching places where we can help patients. So we absolutely rely heavily on their patient services department. That's where we get all of our opportunities to work with patients. We also help the association with some of their key fundraising initiatives like the walks. They have a sports gala that we volunteer at, and then just a couple events here and there throughout the year that they also need help with. It's a 3-day event, and I've actually never been. It's always been a little bit of a painful subject for me. I generally get a little too emotional to really be of much help there. However, it's an incredible event. It brings in people, not just for ALS research, but for essentially anything that people want to advocate for. And it's a chance to talk to your representatives about your issues, the ones that are near and dear to your heart. So it's really vital for the YPG to go, especially as young people, especially as a demographic that most politicians want to reach, and advocate for ALS research. Recently, they were able to vote on a shorter wait period for medical benefits for ALS patients, because most ALS patients are dead within 5 years of diagnosis. And they wanted everyone to wait 3 years before they even got any sort of medical benefits. So I believe that's been completely waived. So it really does work, and it's really impactful to have YPG members there telling their stories to their representatives and following up. We have a really incredible committee chair member who does exclusively advocacy, and it's not just for this conference, but it's a year-round thing. And so she's on a first-name basis with a lot of representatives in the area, and they know her agenda and she knows theirs. So it's great to have that connection.
It's been on now that we're happy to kind of share how it works with everyone.
But the good thing is the priorities and the research and all the really hardcore information, it can be a lot to learn. Don't feel overwhelmed. What you go down to do is to tell the congressman your personal story. The chapter will handle these kind of details. You guys have to explain to them why it's important in your lives. And it's incredibly powerful to sit down with a congressman or a senator and see how they're affected by your story.
You go with your story.
Yeah.
And even if you just sat there and said, I lost my friend to ALS, and that's all you could say, that's all you need to say. You know, it's your personal experience is so powerful.
Yeah.
So if you can go from day, please do.
Awesome. Basis, the only people that have a work connection for the most part are the ALS Association representatives that come from the ALS Association, and then also are at our meetings. Everyone else comes from all different walks of life. I think our oldest member is a little over 40 now, and our youngest is 22 or 23. So, you know, young is definitely more of a state of mind for our group than an age limit for sure. And then with that, it is mostly a personal connection. For instance, just from a personal standpoint, I wanted to get involved. I tried to get involved in different ways. They didn't pan out. And then I found the ALS Association, and to have a group of people around my age that knew, for the most part, firsthand, if not a parent or a sibling, then a grandparent or an aunt or uncle. But they knew what I was going through, and this is not a support group, but it's a proactive way to help out in a pretty terrible situation, I guess. The situation sucks. No one wants anyone else to have to go through it. Mm-hmm. So it does feel like a great opportunity to get through it together.